the unemployment situation continues to go around Washington, and that Senate of ours that's been back since Tuesday still has not, back since Monday, I'm sorry, still has not voted on extending unemployment benefits to now nearly 3 million Americans who have lost their benefits. Nearly 3 million have gone for a month and a half or a little bit shorter without receiving a check from their state to keep things afloat, an average of $300 per week. For some, it's much, much lower than that. But it is, of course, funds and money that do keep people able to eat and putting roofs over their heads and things of that nature. The latest news from Senator Harry Reid's office is that the Senate will be voting on this measure once again, but not until Tuesday of next week. And still, we have people who cannot put food on their table because this Senate continues to drag its feet in doing nothing. Now, the reason they're waiting until Tuesday is because the governor of West Virginia, Mark Manchin, has taken his sweet-ass time in putting in the name of a replacement for the late Senator Robert Byrd. That is somewhat understandable, but it does not make any sense, because the truth of the matter is he could have made this decision while the Senate was out of session, but he waited even longer. And so now, unfortunately, a political hack in West Virginia who has no bearing whatsoever on the federal government is the key reason now that people have not gotten their checks for more than 6 weeks in some cases. Now, when this person does in fact get appointed, I believe it's supposed to be a Democratic woman, the belief is that the Senate will vote on it on Tuesday, with it being rushed to the president's desk to be signed into law, and by Wednesday the funds will be released, and by Thursday and on Friday of next week these people who have been without for so long will finally get something their way. The truth of the matter is, however, that it has taken more than 6 weeks for this to get done, and it is unacceptable the way that the Senate has conducted itself. And what really irks the living shit out of me is that on my Twitter page I follow Senator Robert Menendez, who is supposed to be one of the senators who is for the working class Americans and for the quote-unquote little people who need it the most. Well, let me tell you something. He's been out there bragging about stopping somebody who made a comment about Indian Americans. He has been bragging about the BP situation. He hasn't opened his mouth once. I understand there are other things going on in this country right now, but he hasn't said a word one about the people of his district, in his state of New Jersey. Hundreds of thousands in this state alone, because believe it or not, Jersey's got, I shouldn't say hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands in this state alone, because it has one of the highest unemployment rates in the entire country. I am so sick and tired of seeing these senators, Republicans and Democrats, calling press conferences to tout and to trump all of these wonderful things that they're supposedly doing for the people of the United States, when in fact most of it is bullshit and nonsense. I am so sick and tired of seeing senators get to podiums and thanking one another for supporting each other's bills that have no bearing on you or me, but have more of a bearing on the wealthiest Americans and the business owners of this country, and not just small businesses, but big businesses. I am so sick and tired of seeing senators having press conferences pointing the blame at the other party, when the truth of the matter is that this mess that we are in is a bipartisan mess. It was one that was started by a Republican president, and it is one that has not been fixed by a Democratic president. It is one that under Republican Congresses and Democratic Congresses, there were so many messes that it's impossible to get anything done. And the most that you ever see out of anybody in the United States Senate is blame to the other party. No solutions at all. It's one of the things that drives me crazy about watching Look at the Hind. I love the show. I love the guys. They're critical of the Democratic Party, but not once do they offer solutions to the problems. And that's kind of what we're seeing throughout the country. We see it with Democrats. We see it with Republicans. He said, she said. They said, we said. But no solutions to the problems. If there's something you don't like, you tend to want to try to fix it. Not just say, we've got a problem. Imagine if that had happened during the Apollo 13 mission, when they said those infamous words, Houston, we have a problem. And the people down in Houston said, well, sorry, you're out on your own. You're going to have to find your way to get around the moon and come back to Earth. There's nothing we can do. People would laugh at it. But why is it any different when it's human beings on our planet who need help? And the parties are only saying to one another, it's your fault. No, it's your fault. No, it's your fault. No, it's your fault. It's a collaborative effort here, folks. And the problem here is that, unfortunately, from the White House, we are getting no answers. A good and effective president of the United States would have a pulse on these things and would be so powerful and so scary to the members of the Congress that this unemployment bill would have been passed in April, not in July, when it ultimately will be passed. But we're not seeing anything out of Obama. Unfortunately, as Mattress Man said in the chat room, his silence is sickening. It is extremely sickening because he has been nowhere to be found in the last 6 weeks. He's been golfing. He's been paying and doing his vacations. But we don't hear all that much out of President Obama when it comes to these issues. Speak up, President Obama. The people who voted for you have had enough. Unfortunately, I'm one of them. And as it stands right now, looking back to 2007, back to 2008, the last presidential election, the only thing I could say about my vote was, it was a wasted vote. Don't let me say that in 2 more years, because if that's the case, I'm going to wind up pulling the lever for somebody else, maybe as soon as the primary. It is.